Have you ever built an Edgar Markov deck or Urza Lord High Artificer deck where you create a silly theme that is somewhat low power? But even though you tell your opponents that your deck is very casual, it's not one of those decks, you say. You still get targeted and knocked out early. But your opponents have a point. Even if you're playing Edgar Changelings or Urza Thopter Tribal, your deck is always going to look threatening from the get-go because of the power of these commanders. And this is why I never play any commander on EDHREC's top 100, nor any commander that is commonly considered powerful. Now, besides me being a hipster and not wanting to have the same commander as anyone else at my local game store, I think playing an underrated commander has a ton of benefits. First off, it means you don't get targeted right off the bat. Let's compare Galazeth to Joyra. People know Joyra is going to be drawing a ton of cards and storming off, and they just can't let the Joyra player untap with their commander or they're probably going to lose. Now, Galazeth, although still a useful commander, isn't an absolute must-kill threat. You're not going to get focused down for your Galazeth, especially because less people have played the commander, so people aren't going to remember the time where Galazeth destroyed them, since they probably never played against the deck anyway. But here's the real secret. You can just play Joyra or Urza or whatever in the 99. You can sneak your powerful cards in when your opponent isn't ready for it. If you play a commander that's going to easily win when you untap, or combos with many cards, your opponents are going to be ready for it. And watch out for those. If you have a combo piece right there in the command zone, many players are going to be cautious and hold up removal. So how do you pick a commander that won't cause your opponents to panic and focus on you from turn 1? One easy way to do this is just go to EDHREC, find a theme or type that you're playing, and look at other options within the colors. Maybe you'll find something a few rows down that looks interesting. How about some examples? Personally, I use Mina and Den instead of Omnath in my red-green mid-rangey land deck. And this is because the commander just provides value. It's not nearly dangerous enough for my opponents to use removal on them. I've almost never had anyone actually use spot removal on my commander, because why would they? After I play Mina and Den and draw my extra land, if I untap with them, I'll play 2 more lands, and then I'm probably out of lands in hand. My commander doesn't do anything extra anymore. So why would they use removal? I've already gotten all the value I need and gotten to ramp plenty. But the commander isn't useless. Later in the game, being able to bounce lands means I can consistently trigger any landfall effects, or with a fetch land and crucible effect, I can ramp even harder. And there's some other synergies in the deck too, with things like Glacial Chasm. The commanders really only die when swept up in a Wrath. And for my artifact deck, I play Taunos, who can be very powerful. Doubling up the triggers from the One Ring or a Portal to Phyrexia can be devastating. But this commander is so underused and underplayed, nobody even knows how good it is if they haven't seen my deck before. But those are very common themes, artifacts, lands, and for most common things, there are tons of options and you can just pick a less popular one. But if you really want to fly under the radar, the type of commander you're looking for is one that your opponents read and they don't know what you're cooking up. Here are some suggestions. How about Mono Blue Voltron with Hacken Lore Weaver, where you get to play combos like Iridescent Drake plus False Demise plus Altar of Dementia. A friend of mine built this deck and it is surprisingly powerful. You can get a lot of damage in weirdly fast. Personally, I've been playing Stark of Wrath Mono Red Control, where I can tap my commander to target one of my own indestructible artifacts, hold priority and untap him, and then tap him again to destroy my opponent's creature. So that second activation resolves first, destroying my opponent's creature and they gain control of my commander, and then the first activation will resolve second, targeting my indestructible artifact, which is not destroyed, but I regain control of my commander, giving me this like tap destroy target creature in the command zone. And a lot of people don't know about this synergy, so they think it's like a group hug deck or something weird. Or what about an Iname Death Aspect deck I used to play, where you try to win with Mortal Combat after putting a bunch of spirits in the bin, but it was a secret ad nauseum list, where after all the spirits got taken out of the list, you can draw your entire deck with ad nauseum and go for another combo. Or how about Mono White Blink? But instead of playing Elish Norn and getting focused down because people hate that Torpor Orb effect, you can use Mangara of Corondor. After you activate Mangara, if you blink the commander, you get to keep your commander in play and still exile the creature, giving you powerful removal in the command zone, and you can still do all the blink shenanigans. Last example, how about instead of Go Wide Elf Ball, your Go Wide deck is maybe Ovia Pashiri, Sage Lifecrafter, where you try to go wide with Thopters and Servos and Constructs, and then use your commander to make massive constructs. Now, there aren't too many ways to make these tokens in mono green, so you need to get a little creative and maybe untap your commander a few times to get extra use out of that second ability. When you build one of these kind of more jank commanders, not only do you get the benefit of people not really knowing what you're going to do, so you get that extra surprise factor, that extra oomph, and what are they going to do? Use removal on your Ovia Pashiri? Or are they going to use removal on the Dragon? The Dragon seems a lot more threatening, which means you get to just activate your commander one more time and get even more value. Plus, when you play these slightly janker commanders that have some like hoops to jump through, you really need to flex your deck building strength and come up with clever ways to make these commanders more powerful. But there's a lot of power out there, and there are many more examples of underrated commanders that can be really strong in the right shell. If you have suggestions, let me hear it in the comments below. And if you disagree with me, how come? Do you just play the best in class commander every time? How has that worked out for you? Do you find yourself getting targeted down because you're playing Korvold, even if it's some sort of jank silly theme? Let me hear about it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.